Cameras rolling.
Rolling.
Audio.
Audio speed.
Okay. Good, Brett?
Yep.
Okay, and episode 2, action.
Welcome to our second episode of BeKinetic. I must be honest, I'm so excited about this video and our podcast around the notion of being kinetic. And I think all of us have this desire to go forward, to be more dynamic, to be more exciting, to move forward. And that's what kinetic is all about. And it has the notion of that efficaciousness of it's coming from ourselves. It's not being forced upon us. It's not being driven by someone else. And so that's really what the definition of kinetic is all about. And so as we go into our second episode, I just want to quickly refer back to the first episode, is where we looked at the different levels of having a resilient safety culture. And the first is where we don't want to be, where people are just outright resistant to safety. They have this negative attitude when it comes to being part of a safety culture. Then the second level is also not a great place to be at, is where people, they do comply, but only when being monitored, only when being looked at. Then the third area is actually where we want to start at, is that where there's something of this private compliance, where I'm now doing the right things because there's an internal value. There's something about, I have bought into the value of safety. Then the fourth area, and that's really where we're winning, is we transition from just about being concerned about my safety to being concerned about the safety of everyone around me. And then once we're at that level, we so quickly slip into the last stage, and that is resilience, where it's now a corporate culture. Just everyone thinks about safety. Everyone acts acts the right way when it comes towards safety, and there's this deep commitment from the whole organization towards safety. But I think as leaders, we really struggle to say, how do we move people from one stage to another stage? Is because so many companies have had so many safety initiatives. They've thrown in so much time and so much effort and so much money and still aren't getting the results they're looking for because they don't understand what drives human behavior. Before we get into the real dynamics of what drives human behavior, I think it's important to understand maybe the broader context of having a safety culture. And what we find is that there are 4 critical components in creating this culture that we're looking for. The first area, which I think most companies have spent a lot of money in, is the engineering side. And so that would be as basic as issuing people PPE, putting up signs to warn people of the hazards around them. Then we also see that there's engineering designs, and we look at putting in guards and barricades in place. The second component would be our systems. And that would be everything we do on a day-to-day basis to keep us safe. And that would include things like our risk assessments. It would include our communication processes. If you guys do plant task operations, anything that is helping us, our daily toolbox talks would be included in that process. And then lastly is our people component. What is interesting is when we look at the investigations that have taken place when it comes to major catastrophes, is time and time again is that we find that the root cause comes to a term that most of us know is human error. In fact, the research has shown that approximately 90 to 97% of all error somewhere along the line comes back to the person component. Yet when I speak to companies, is they put their strategy, they focus on the engineering side and on the system side. And typically they'll have strong engineering where they make the workplace as safe as possible, and they'll have these reinforced systems. But yet when it comes to the people side is that we try, we hope, there's something of a good intention. And I think a lot of companies may have gone through what we typically call a BBS process, behavior-based safety, and yet it still hasn't brought about the results that we are looking for. And again, it's coming back to the issue is that most leaders still don't understand what drives human behavior. So we're looking for the safety culture. That's the results we want. And obviously it makes sense that if you get people to be alert, to be switched on, to be dedicated towards safety, that's the behavior side, then we'll get the safety culture. But behavior is driven by something else. And what really drives behavior, and this should be our focus, our strategy, is not, now obviously we want engineering and we want systems, but our strategy should be focused on what people believe. Because what people believe drives their thinking, which drives their feelings, which drives their behavior, which then gives us the results that we are looking for, the safety culture, this resilience. Now, I was in Thailand several years ago, it was quite a while back, and I had the privilege of going on one of these tours where you could be on the top of an elephant and you kind of walked around a portion of the island, and it was a wonderful experience. But I was really fascinated when I arrived at the area where we were just getting together, and I saw the elephant. I mean, it's a huge, big, powerful elephant, and he was tied by this little dangly rope to some little peg in the ground. And so I was curious, and I went up to the guide and I said, what's the purpose of this rope? I mean, the elephant can pull it out at any moment. And he says, no, what's happened is they've conditioned his belief system. So from a very young age is they tied this rope to the baby elephant, and he tried to pull loose, but he couldn't. And over the weeks and the months is this elephant started to believe while it was a baby that it couldn't get loose. And as it got older, because of its belief system, it stopped trying. And now, as a full-grown elephant, it actually can easily be freed. But because of its belief system, it doesn't even try. And how many people, because of their belief system, the way in which they think about safety, is hindering us having the safety culture that we're looking at or looking for. So if I believe safety is an inconvenience to production, if I believe safety is a waste of time, if I believe that safety is a waste of money, guess what? I'm going to think that way. And how I think about it is going to drive my feelings, and I'm going to feel resistant. And why should I spend time at toolbox talks? Why should I contribute? Why should I do thorough risk assessments? Because it's simply a waste of time. And guess what? If that's how I think and feel towards safety, it's definitely going to impact how I function, how I act, how I behave. And so if we want to change people's behavior, the focus shouldn't be on the behavior, but on the belief system. Now, I've deliberately left out one component when it comes to the safety culture. So I mentioned the three. We've got the engineering, we've got the systems, and we've been focusing on the people side. But the one element that I have left out is the leadership side. Is when it comes to a safety culture, is the primary component is actually the leader. Is he at the end of the day, or the collective leaders, is what drives a culture. So if we've got people who are resistant to safety because of their belief system, this is where the leader comes in, because the leader is the person who's going to influence this type of change. Now, you can see where people or what people believe very quickly by just simply asking a question. Just make a statement. So if I say the Blue Bulls rugby team, now if you are a Pretoria person and you're going to get excited and go, yes, my team, they are the Boykies, my blood is blue, and you're going to get really excited just by the notion of two words, Blue Bulls. So amazing. But if you happen to be a Sharks fan or a Stormers fan, when I go Blue Bull, you're like, I can't care about them. And so can you see, because of your belief system, that either the Blue Bulls are the best or the Sharks or whatever it might be, is that when you hear that name, you think and feel towards them, and it responds in your behavior. And so let me say Donald Trump. Now, some of you might like Donald and you think he's the best. And just by saying his name, you go, oh, he's my champion. He's a world leader and I really respect him. But others of you don't believe that he's a dynamic leader. And so when I say the word Donald Trump, oh man, I don't appreciate him. He needs to grow in his leadership. And then you'll have a whole lot of reasoning for what you believe, and how you approach him will be very different. So here's the key word. When I say Blue Bulls, you're going to have a certain response. When I say Donald Trump, there's going to be a certain response. But here's the key question. When I say safety, what goes through your head? How do you think about safety? How do you feel about it? And how is that impacting the way in which you behave? Just as important is when you say safety in a meeting, your colleagues and your friends, how do they respond and go, yeah, we're excited about safety, we are passionate, we are committed to having a resilient safety culture? It's like, oh, not again, not another session, not another initiative. So as soon as people respond, you can know immediately where they are positioned at. Now, this doesn't really help us much, because we need to understand, how do we shift this belief system? So to understand how we shift it, is we need to understand how beliefs are formed. So typically what would happen is, how my brain processes beliefs is, firstly, is I receive information. So if I'm looking at something, is that information will go through my 5 senses, and in this particular case through my eyesight, and it goes and it is processed or stored on my subconscious mind. And whatever I see, my brain starts to go, have I seen this before? Have I experienced this before in some way? And depending on whether I have or what I have or how I have, it creates a frame. It gives it meaning. It gives it something of distinction for yourself. So let me give you a classic example. It was a couple of years ago that I had a friend from Australia called Rajni, and she wanted to go and have kind of a safari experience. And so we went out to the Pilanesberg near Sun City, and as we were driving around, we had a great day, and the windows were down. It was a lovely sunny afternoon, and we had seen, the springbuck and the impala, and we'd seen the kudu, and just a wonderful experience. And at one particular moment, we saw some lion, and without even thinking, she put the window up and she locked the door. So I try to understand, why did she respond in such an interesting way? And what I found out is the previous weekend she went to, and I don't even have a proper word for it, because it's not really a game reserve. It's one of these fake enclosures where lions walk around, and it's really not natural. And the guide that took her around, he told her, you got to be careful, because lions creep up to cars and they open the doors and then they kill you. See, right or wrong, good or bad, it's irrelevant. That is what's stored on her subconscious. So as soon as she saw the lion, she goes, have I seen this before? And what goes on her subconscious, she says, yes, I have seen this before, is I was told that lions creep up to cars and open the door and is going to eat me. Then most of us have seen the National Geographic where this lioness is chasing the zebra, and it jumps on the back of the zebra and it does this tumble turn, and then it takes it by the neck and kills it. And that's the images of what she saw when she saw the lionesses. And so what happened is, because of that belief system that I'm in danger, 3 things happened very quickly. The first is she thought about it. So when we look at frames, we'll always go through these 3 focus areas. Is we're going to think about it, we're going to feel about it, and we're going to do something about it. So there's always a think, feel, do response. And so what happened is, as soon as she saw the lions, it linked to her subconscious, have I seen this before? And so what did she think? She was in trouble. She was in danger. And because she thought that, what happened is there was all of this fear and anxiety and stress that went through her body, which led her to lock the doors and put up the window. So I had to explain to her the dynamics of a real lion situation, how lions function in the wild, and it's not their typical behavior to walk up to cars and open the doors. And I explained that you can see when lions start to get agitated, their ears start to twitch, they stand up and they have this posture, and their tails start to wag. And I go, then you're in trouble. And I go, when you're in that scenario and they're up close, you definitely want to close your windows. But when they're still a couple of 50 meters or beyond that, you're still in good place. And so what happened is, when I gave her new information, she started to think differently about this. She didn't feel, see, there's the key word. She went from thinking new thoughts, and she didn't feel this anxiety and the stress. She started to relax. She started to become calm. In fact, she actually started to become excited. And what happened is, she rolled down the windows again, because it was safe to do so. And the lioness actually chased down a wildebeest, and she got some great photos. New behavior. So as leaders, when it comes to creating a resilient safety culture, is while we need engineering and we need good systems, our focus, our strategy should be on the people side, because that is where the major source of incidents are taking place. And if we want to be effective in getting our results, we obviously need the right behavior. But this is coming from having the right beliefs, which drive thinking, which drives feeling, which then gives us the behaviors that we are looking for. To show you how dynamic this is last year I was fortunate enough to be in Saudi Arabia, and I had a dinner date with a very wealthy businessman. And I can't tell you, I was so excited about the possibility of meeting this individual and the possibilities of doing business. And so what happened is, I was in the bathroom and I was just washing my hands, getting ready for the dinner, and I can't tell you, I was amped. There was so much energy and excitement about the possibility. And as I was washing my hand, a lady walked into the bathroom. So I started to look around to see, are there any gentlemen utilities? And as I was looking around, I saw not only are there not, there was a whole lot of ladies' paraphernalia. And I saw the nice soap and the towels that were hung up so nicely on the rack. And then it dawned upon me is the person who's in the wrong place was me. And it was in a split moment that I went from being so excited, so full of energy, to being confused in another split second from being embarrassed. And I remember I ran out of that bathroom, kind of almost ducking out, saying, listen, I'm so sorry, please excuse me. That's how powerful a thought is. Same bathroom, same evening, same restaurant, same opportunity, and my emotions and behavior changed radically because of one thing, a new thought. And so I really want to encourage you that if you want to see real behavior change that is going to get you the safety culture that you are looking for, how are you intentionally? How are you speaking? What questions are you asking? What, when statements are made that is not helping us get in the safety culture that we want, that are we challenging and saying, is that really helping us? Is that a good belief? How are we doing this to put new thoughts within our people? When we have our toolbox talks, when we have our safety meetings, what words are we using that will take someone who's resistant to go, I've never thought about it that way. I've never seen it that way. Oh boy, I need to embrace that as a value. And when they start to do that, guess what? They're going to think about safety differently. They're going to feel about it differently. And guess what? This is what we want. They're going to behave differently without us having to force them, with threaten them, or even give them a whole lot of rewards. Guys, I can't wait for our next episode as we explore this concept further. And till then, be kinetic. Keep on moving. Keep moving forward till we get the results that we are looking for. I hope you have a great day further.
Okay, good. Cut.